All right, everybody, I did not have any idea that Mike and Roger were going to be live. Otherwise, I would have kind of postponed or not even done this. So, I don't know if anybody's in here yet or not. All right, 3+1's here. Art, awesome. Dale Hayslip, fantastic. You guys are in here. I kind of feel bad because, I had no idea that Mike and Roger were going to be live. But I said, you know what? I can't go fishing, so I might as well talk about it with all of my awesome, awesome YouTube friends. What's up, Big John? 3+1. Greenwell's in here. Well, I'm just tickled at Rondell Perry. All right. So I've got a little bit of a special treat for you. And let me shut this noisemaker off real quick. We've got the whiteboard, and we've got some rigs that we want to talk about, and that hey, Mike Murillo, this is pretty awesome. 3+1. Sogo, long time no see, brother. Brian Brake, good to see you. Okay, so we're going to talk about some stuff that I plan on talking about at the CatCon in more detail or less detail. Mike Chavez, what's going on? George Ray, hardest working guy in YouTube. Well, everybody's hard working, but Hogleg's in here too. So let me start this show by saying that this is not what you saw in the thumbnail. This is not the most impressive one that I made. This is just your normal blue cat that I plan on holding up at the CatCon. And I know I'm kind of divulging some secrets here, but we've got this, and I thought to myself, I said, okay, I would love to bring some big catfish to CatCon, but how am I going to do that? I want to bring catfish to the people, but I can't bring live catfish. So I said, okay, how am I going to do this? Is it going to be like my old seminars where I had a big screen and we could just hit the buttons and up pops the picture? I don't think so. So I made some, and I don't think I could show it tonight. Maybe I could show it a little bit. I don't know if I even brought it out. I don't think I did. I made a replica by size, by measurements, of my last epic monster that I caught that I put on YouTube. Then I also built, and it's a little bit cartoonish. It's kind of folk arty, but I made a full replica of an 85-pound flathead, which measures 55 inches long. And so you guys will get to see on stage, and I'm pretty sure, and I got to read some comments here. What's up, Steve Mosley, Rondell Perry, Mr. Shop, and 336 is in here. So I'm gonna bring that stuff out on stage so you can see the actual scale, because one thing is there are a lot of waters that have monsters. They really do, but some are so few and far between. People don't really get to see them until they chase them in a fanatical way, like I have my entire life. And I am going to really enjoy people seeing the actual scale of these things. And there's Steve Douglas. Let's give Steve Douglas a hand for doing what he does. Until I got into YouTube, I didn't even realize what Steve Douglas really does. And he does so much for the catfish community. He's a great guy, and I don't say that lightly. I say that with ultimate respect, because he has been there from pretty much the YouTube beginning, and he just pushes things. I mean, he really does, but he does it in such a nice manner. He's not all donkey baits and all this crazy stuff like I am, and Sean is, and all this stuff. He goes out there and he says things, and they come true on the video. He throws his rods on and says, okay, this is what we're doing, this is what we're fishing, and this is what we're doing. And then pretty soon, he needs the nets that he sells to land these monsters, and I'm in awe. It is awesome. So I don't think I'm going to show you the other ones yet, but this one is like your normal size blue that we expect to catch. And yeah, it's a little folk arty, it's a little whatever. But when you're talking this size, if you could imagine, which you guys can because you guys are expert fishermen, that this size blue is going to be able to eat a pretty big bait, and their mouth opens up, I mean like that. So I'm not afraid of throwing big baits, and most of the time I talk about donkey baits, I really do. But the one thing about donkey baits is it will eliminate you from catching fish this size a lot of times. And this is not the direction I'm going to be talking about CatCon. This is I'm kind of going to fill in the cracks beforehand, because I'm going to be talking about epic monsters and donkey baits and the mindset to go out there and target these fish specifically and for as much time and you know, keeping your game face on and all that stuff. So we're going to talk about the unless the crowd wants to talk about it. So you know, fish like this, I'm not saying they're a dime a dozen, because in a lot of waters they're really not. This is actually a good fish for a lot of people, even in this day and age. But like I always say on my videos, I want to catch a fish that could eat this fish, even though this is a pretty impressive fish. So let me pay attention to this chat and ask some questions. What kind of questions have you guys been mulling around in your head and thinking about that I haven't been able to answer? So I'll give you a minute. I'm going to turn a couple more lights on, get this thing going a little bit. Jeremy, what's going on? I'm doing really good. Really good. And as y'all see, the lighting's way better. So I've got my whiteboard here, and we're gonna get into some detail, and I don't think I'm gonna drag this thing on for 2 or 3 hours like a lot of them. I'm gonna try to answer some questions. I'm gonna try to go through some things about what we really do and what we're really thinking, because some of the biggest differences in what I do, and not what you all do, but what people do that fish my waters, because I see a lot of them. Let me get back. Let me go back a little bit. So we got Carolina, Real Screamers, awesome. Big John. Do fish sleep? They actually do. They go into what a lot of psychoanalysts or psychologists would say as a homeostasis. So it's not necessarily that they close their eyes and sleep, but they do go into a phase where they will sit there, and it takes a little bit to wake them up, especially like flatheads in the winter. Bluegills will, and since you guys are catfishermen just like me, I'm sure you've walked around your lake or your pond and shined the light around the water, and those bluegills are tucked up so tight, and as soon as you put the light on them, they like turn themselves. It's pretty amazing. You got to kind of wake them up, and they're up so tight because they want to stay away from the predators. And what are the predators? Big catfish, even small catfish. Small catfish will go and attack these bluegills and stuff like this stuff. What up, Big Slim, Cody Robinson? Avid, I love you guys. You guys are just the shizma, as they say. You guys are great. 3+1. So anyway, these bluegills, by instinct alone, they haven't learned it, they don't know it. Uh-oh, my volume's kind of low. Let's see if we can turn that up. All right, so we turned it up. How's the volume now? Okay, so we're talking about bluegills and bait fish and things, trying to basic catfish. And Curtis, you're darn right. I am going to start to preach here in a minute. How can you fish around lock and dams from the bank? It's pretty easy, Avid. You got to figure out, and there's no way of looking at it, but we actually did a video on purpose. Sean and I did. So let me see if I can tilt this up so I'm not just bending over the whole time. Sean and I did a video of specifically fishing the below the Alton Dam. And of course, as close as you can get to it, there's only one access point, and it's on that, if you're facing upstream, it's on the left side. So you can read the current, you know, bomb your baits as hard as, and fast as you can and see how they move. And Steve Douglas will attest to this, although I don't think he fishes from the shore off the bank very much, but still, it doesn't really matter where you're on the boat, on the bank. If you throw out and that bait sinks to the bottom and all of a sudden the line pressure starts working it this way, fine, but it also, you can throw up to the gates and it will actually move forward sometimes. There is a sweet spot. It's generally where the, you know, and fishermen used to call it the current tunnels, where, you know, you would have little swaths of water that it'd be bringing food this way. You know what? Let me resort to this. I hope you guys can see this. So you've got the dam gates, you got the lock, and then you've got the shoreline. So here's the dam gates with all the water crushing through here, and usually on one side or the other, it is going to be eddying back. And that's the case. That is the case at Alton, just above St. Louis. So it's going to be eddying back. So Sean and I chose this location here to put our rods out and throw up here and see what happened. Now, they would actually move towards the middle of the river and then back trail, and then all of a sudden you've got this situation where, I don't know if you guys can see that. Maybe I could get it a little bit closer. Whoa. Yeah, I think we need to be closer. Let's see here. I gotta get my clip. So otherwise this whole thing will fall off. But, okay, so you've got current going out. This current's basically going straight down, and it does other things. But when you cast out and you cast to this location, it's going to work its way over here. Sometimes if you cast here, it's going to work its way there. You gotta use that feel at the end of the rod. Say, okay, boom, boom, boom. Which way is it going? How is it going? Is it going to go directly into snags? Or and sometimes that's fine. I don't mind that. If I know that there's big fish in the area, I do not mind some snags. I don't, because it's the cover, it's the structure of the river, it's things like this that catfish, literally big catfish will go around a big boulder. So you've got a giant boulder like this, and your bait is pegged up against the front. They'll come this way and actually turn their whole body. It's the craziest thing. So you've got catfish that look pretty static, and they can actually turn their whole body, flex, keep their tail, and here's their tail this way, and then their head, their mouth goes this way. They don't even have to turn directions in that current. They'll just go over, suck it in, and keep going. It's a pretty cool thing. So you've got this rock, and that smell, that catfish is coming up here, and it directs that smell right into his location. I hope you guys can hear that. All right, I'm gonna pay attention to the chat a little bit. Tell me if you guys can hear my voice good and understand and see what I'm saying, because I could just keep talking all night. So give me a thumbs up if you can hear it and understand what's going on. What up, Pontoon Jody? 3+1. Catfish Curtis says he can hear it. Okay, very good. All right, so I'm gonna try to get them to wipe this clean, because there's gonna be other things that we're not gonna be able to cover at CatCon that we can cover right now. So I hope that a lot of people can go to the Kansas City, Missouri CatCon, because I think it's gonna be an exciting thing. I really do. I've never been there. Steve invited me to go, and it took me about 2 seconds to say yes. I'm serious. I mean, he said, hey, can you do like a little speaking at CatCon? I said, yes, I will. Uh-oh, first part of class. That's all right, no real loss. We were just kind of doing a little bit of a meet and greet. Wasn't such a big deal on that. Uh-oh. Yeah, I got stuff falling apart. See, this is why we're not doing it CatCon, because I've got this sort of just kind kind of held up here. I didn't really realize it was going to be so flimsy. One thing about all you catfishermen, you guys are a patient group. You understand that things can't be perfect. Casey CatCon going on, gonna be awesome. Jason Ward, I hope to meet you when you're there. Jeremy, for inactive fish in the Mississippi River in the cold months at night, what would you do if you had all night to fish? I'll tell you what I would do, Jeremy. On the Mississippi, I would go early enough I could see a lot of water. And I would want to mark, what up, Creole? I would want to mark as many big fish as I could in a smaller location. Because if I go into a spot, let's just say I go to a classic behind a wing dam spot, and I mark 3 big fish, I might fish it right then because I don't know if they're going to move or not. But if I find one wing dike out of 20 that's got 50 good marks, that's the one I'm going to set up in. And in cold water, I'm gonna try to fish for them during the day into the night because I gotta be there at the right bite window. Greenwell, it's been beaten in our head. In our heads, went on anchor to look for structure as fish, trees, and other things. Should we look for to anchor on? Okay, this is one thing that's been very important when deciding whether we're fishing for blues or whether we're fishing for channel cats or whether we're fishing for flatheads. So I had to, and you will hear this at CatCon because it's a standard. It is a standard of what I've learned over 30 years. And the standard is, if I'm gonna fish for big blues, not 20s, not 30s, not 40s, but if I'm gonna fish for big blues, in any water that they swim, I am going to have to get rid, totally put it out of my mind, flathead and channel cat mentality. Now, I'm not saying that happens all across the country, but most of the time where I fish, if I'm fishing channel cat or anything acceptable to a big channel cat, anything acceptable to a big flathead is not acceptable to a giant blue. Giant blues prefer faster, deeper, and more epic spots than even flatheads and channel cats. And it took me several years to get that out of my head. Because if you guys have watched my lives, I would never try to set up on those spots for flatheads and be successful. I would never sit up on those spots, even though you can catch an occasional flathead, you can catch an occasional channel cat. I would never set up on those spots to be successful with either of those 2 species and expect to catch a big blue, either one. I'm going to focus on things that channel cats and flatheads don't really have the option or the propensity to hang out at. All right, I'm sure I missed some questions here. All right, there's Creole. Okay, it has been beaten in our heads. Anchor look forward, and I answered that one on Mike Greenwell. And you know, Mike, I watched your live today, and your live today was very reminiscent of what I would do, even though there's barges and there's large obstacles in the water and such. I would still be fishing that main flow. That main flow where maybe it was 25, 30 foot of water and went into 30, 32, 33. Okay, Jeremy, how would you change your bait for the big blues and flatheads? What would be the difference in your waters? Okay, now that is a complex question that we will answer. It may take me 15 minutes to answer that. All right, so since at CatCon, you guys are not going to be, or whoever goes, is not going to be able to see this stuff up close. And whoever has a question, hold them for a minute. 336, I was reading somewhere. I'm going to try. Blues don't move as much as we think they do, but I'd love, no real loss. Get back to that because I want to answer that question because that is one thing that I have worked my entire life to understand is the movement of catfish. Okay, so just remind me on that one. And I'm sure we won't get to all of the questions. But let's go to the bait question once again. Because I mean, bait questions, even though I feel that bait is one of the lesser, let me try to get into camera here. I feel that bait is one of the lesser important parts of the whole equation, but it's still important. So since we can't see this stuff up closer, I don't think we can at CatCon, I'm gonna bring out some of my bait props. All right. So even though this is kind of it's not super realistic, this is my interpretation or my drawing of a skipjack herring. And everybody that fishes the Tennessee or the Mississippi River down south is familiar with this bait and this particular size and throwing this kind of capacity. But what Jeremy's talking about is, how do I determine what my size of bait is that I'm going to choose? And how I'm going to do that. Steve Douglas. Oh, projector for PowerPoint, but I love your old, this is pretty old school. So, okay, Jeremy, let's get back to this and everybody who's interested. How do I choose whether I'm throwing mega donkey baits or whether I'm throwing small baits? For one, it is going to determine on part of the year. Generally speaking, the colder the water, the less their metabolism. And it doesn't really matter if you're talking channel cats, flatheads, or blues, even though flatheads, once you get into 39 degrees, they're basically in suspended animation like on Star Trek. You know, I mean, somebody shot them with a taser or a laser, whatever, and they're just like, done. Channel cats will still feed throughout the winter, fine. But let's talk about big blues because, you know, I mean, we're talking about big blues and a lot of you guys are in big blue territory. So if we're talking about big blues, I can use this in the winter, but I'm going to be less successful with gigantic fish. Believe this or not, even though I can catch big fish on this bait, in the winter, anything under about 39 degrees, I am better halving this to right here, right there. Because the propensity for giant blues, even though they've got, and I'm not going to, I do have an old school method here. So I'm not going to give up the ghost right now before I get to CatCon. But if that fish's mouth is like as big as my arm, the propensity for them to jump into this thing like this, they'll suck it in and then kind of spit it out. Why? Why? You would think that big blues, no matter what the temperature, whatever, blah, 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 they're just going to take it and go because they're monsters, right? They're not monsters. They are when the water temperature's up. They're seething when the water temperature's up. They're aggressive. They're competitive. They're all of that when the water temperature's up. But the second it starts to go down, they start backing off. They back down. It's almost like your kids when they're running amok. They're running amok, doing this, doing that, until dad says, hey, enough of that. And then all of a sudden their demeanor comes down. It's almost like that. And it is the water temperature, length of daylight, and all of that gets those, even the monsters, settled down. And I've seen it time and time again. Or a bait like this, which isn't actually all that big. Bite marks here, and the tooth pad is this wide. Pull the rod down just sort of half-heartedly, and then let it go. So I'm way better off, and let me demonstrate this. I'm way better off taking my 10-aught hook, putting it through the nose bridle like this, okay, of having a bait that is just below the gill plate. Or I'm way better off at taking just a piece of this and going right in here. That's another thing. Well, let's not talk about that tonight. I'll talk about that at the CatCon. Last 2 times fishing, drifting bites have been this exact thing he is saying. 12-pound fish just barely moved my rod, and that's true. And that is one thing, you know, throughout my life, and I have had a lot of people question me, especially, you know, 20, 25 years ago. They say, how does he know that? Well, because I've seen it with my own eyes. I've watched them in tanks. I've felt my rods. And you know what? That's one of the greatest things about catfishing or fishing in general. Most of this stuff that we learn is by braille. We can't see what's going on there, but we have feeling. And the better rods we have and the more feel we have, we understand what's going on. So when you throw that out and it just sort of pops along that shelf like this, and you get that bite and you see it and it sucks it in. You can see that initial hit like this, and it bows the rod down like that until it puts pressure, and then it's that final jerk, and that's when the hook penetrates right in the corner of the mouth, and then you know it's on. And that's a beautiful thing. It kind of drives me. And, you know, Sean's starting to notice it. You know, people that I've fished with for years, and actually one of the first people that actually told me that that was available, you know, that you could even imagine it, was Chris Harris, which he wasn't even a fisherman at all in the beginning. He was a great saltwater fisherman, and he started to see that on well, he kind of started, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he kind of started with like lead line and things like that, where it was really, really, really obvious. But once you got into the situation where you're in freshwater with big fish, it became obvious. It was one of those V8 moments, like an epiphany. I get so excited about this stuff. What are your thoughts on a double hook rig? Avid, I'm not even going to talk about that yet. Let's talk about, let's see, somebody had a question before. Ryan, yes, Sean is going. Sorry to answer for you, Sean. What up, Hagen Grubbs? Sean, I'm glad you made it. I just kind of did this spur of the moment. So I think there was another question that I asked somebody to remind me about. What do you look for? Oh, yeah, wearing flathead hole and landlocked reservoir, getting into the bite. That is a great question. I don't know if I'm going to get to it, but it's certainly a great question. Yep, Brian Inglesby's going. Travis York, awesome. You know, once again, clap for Steve Douglas, because, you know, there was many people try to put some stuff like this together that were never able to. Steve did it. I mean, I'm talking about 20, 25 years ago, people tried to get some sort of thing going with catfishing, and it just never worked. Nobody had confidence in it, but Steve did it. Okay, so what was that question I promised to answer? What up, Rondell? How far? Oh, actually moved. There we go. No real. All right. This is a quintessential question. And that's, you know, it's hard for me to remember the questions because I have so many of my own still going on in my own head. But that is one that I've studied at length. And not only have I studied telemetry studies, I've never done it myself, so don't get the idea that I put some sort of beacon in the bellies of 80-pound blues and seen how far they went. All I do is get the information from DNR people that have done it, and then I got to kind of read between the lines. So I remember several studies that blue cats, especially when the water starts cooling, generally move downstream in a free river situation. Now, if we're talking about lakes, and I don't remember if you were asking me about lakes or not, but we could say that if you've got a river stretch, and let me result to my whiteboard here. All right, so, whoa. I gotta get a better stand, that's for sure. This thing is like for music. Oh, jeez. You would think I could build one, which I could, but I wasn't really planning this. Yeah, that's really flimsy. Okay. So this is my representation of the main, I don't know if you guys can see that at all, hardly at all. Let me tilt it. All right, here we go. It's the flimsiest whiteboard ever. So here's my representation of the Mississippi River when we're talking about this. So you've got the upper pools, maybe a little bit into Wisconsin. And then we're just gonna represent this. Right here, you've got another dam, because they don't really go through this. So this is, say, the uppermost point which you could expect to catch a blue cat would be Keokuk, Iowa. And Keokuk has a dam that all the water flows over the top, and then it has a hydroelectric deal like here. You got the old eddy pool because the hydroelectric exits out here. But anyway, you've got multiple dams. And they don't have a problem going through that. They do not have a problem moving through these dams until you get to this one. Then all of a sudden they can't get over it. The main flow doesn't come through. It goes through basically a stoppable point. So above Keokuk, there is no fishable population of blue cats to be caught. But we know this from the Meyer Dam, fish that were radio tagged here in less than 6 weeks would move through every dam here when the water's falling, when it goes from like 76 down into about 45, they would move through these dams down here and then travel up the Missouri as many as 30 or many as 250 miles. So that is one thing, and I can't cite the exact study because this is an amalgamation of many studies that I have read and thought about. So we know that and sometimes they'll go from this pool and they'll settle in these pools. They won't all move, but the general idea is that blue cats move downstream in rivers better than they move upstream. And we know this because when the water's high, we don't get a giant population up here. We don't get a giant population up here. We don't even get a giant population up here. It's below, into the Missouri and below, that we get most of the big fish, and they're kind of spread out. They don't really move upstream, and this is one thing I am going to talk at length about in the CatCon. And remember, there's no absolutes in fishing. This is the idea that I get from my experience and trying to sift all the information down into really easy statements that I can make. Epic, this is one of the best live streams ever. I hope you do more and more. Yeah, you know, I am kind of busy, but I do love this stuff, and I do love sharing this information because it really helps people fast forward their fishing information, which makes it all that much better. Because that's one thing that we don't have these days is time. Time is one of those rarities. I mean, we're busy working, we're busy raising kids, we're always on the move. Let's see, what do we got here? It was the speaker in my van turning off because the key was turned off. Okay, he just may make an appearance if you guys wish hard enough. Thank you. Yeah, you must have gotten different internet. Tim, looks great. You know what I did? I called my internet provider and we complained, because what happens is we pay for a certain amount, and then after about 2 months, they put us way down the list, and you got to constantly call. It's illegal, I think, but I'm about ready to go over there and put someone in a headlock. So anyways, we have this migration thing. And so in the spring, since they don't migrate up the river or through dams that, okay, now is this blue movement comparable rivers the only channel cats and no blues or flats? No, it isn't, Catfish Cameron, and I can get to that in a minute. It is not, and that is where I was telling you I had to get rid of my channel cat and flathead mentality if I was going to target gigantic blues. Now I could target those the size blues that I showed you earlier in that little cardboard cutout that I've got all painted up. Maybe I need to complain then because mine is crazy expensive and sucks. Yes, Hagen Grubbs, you got to complain. Because on the phone, mine went from 1.1 download and 0.5 upload to like 20 on the phone before they even admitted anything. Okay, so anyways, let's get to this. Let's talk about, sorry, and I know you guys got questions, but there's something I want to talk to you about that I really can't talk about at CatCon, because there's going to be so many different fishermen that do so many different things. There's going to be tournament anglers. There's going to be guys that are on the bank. There's going to be stuff like that. So, and I view you guys, and I'm not saying anybody's better than anybody else. I'm just saying you guys are really studiers of catfish behavior. So let's talk about pools. Matter of fact, I did see in somebody's live, there were several people that had never heard the word pools before as put to catfishing and catfishing knowledge. Okay. And hey, there's something I want to say, and I might as well say it now. Don't ever think that I'm talking down to anybody or that I'm being elitist, because I'm not. I've had the luxury of being a fish nerd my whole life. And hey, I missed a boom even. I'm terrible. What was that? Who was that? I can't even bring it back up. But anyway, whoever donated, that's awesome. Because, none of us are people that you just do. Hey, I've been stopping in and throwing a thumbs up, working on some things for the camper. Awesome. And this is a great catfish family. And, just because I've been doing it 35 years, don't take anything I say personally. Don't take anything I say as you absolutely have to do it. You can choose to pick up some things that I do, or choose not to, but don't ever think I'm going to disagree with anybody, even if they say you got to use hot dogs in the month of May in 3 foot of water. Maybe that experience is true for people. I don't know. But let's go back to this. And it's amazing I can still remember that's what we were talking about. So you got a pool. So you've got a dam, and most rivers have dams. They really do. And so you've got a dam situation here, and you've got your main flow, okay? Then you've got your side channels, and they go off, and you got your offshoots, and some of them are humongous. You've got islands, you've got all kinds of stuff, but you got your main channel that goes here. Maybe you got some oxbows and whatever. But when you look at that map, if you're thinking about going to a new area, that's what you want to find. And let me zoom out a little bit. I wish I could do this digitally, actually. Just sort of erase it. But yeah, we're doing the old school thing. All right, so when I look at a map, just say I'm fixing to go somewhere where I expect to catch monsters. I am not going to go expect to catch monsters in big, wide, deep, slow-moving pools. Now, there are monsters there, but I am not going to figure that I can go in short amount of time, go locate monsters in a big deep pool, even though sometimes that's the best place to target them, especially in the water cools. Blues move downstream, and that's why we did that with Haz and Peace City and Brian B. We went down there to figure out if there was a discernible situation between numbers of fish and big fish, which we did not find out. But how do you do that in 5 hours? It's pretty impossible. So let's zoom out on this picture. If I'm going to expect to catch monsters, I don't want to see a pool on the Mississippi River that looks like this. There's a dam. I don't want to see this big pool. It's wide, it's slow, it's everything else. I want to see the one that's coming off of it that's more like an actual river. And I think I want to zoom out even farther. But if you guys get what I mean here, we've got a catfish population that is way more compressed, okay? And then you've got this big, wide, deep pool. And this pool might be, and let's start doing this. It might be 60 foot here. It might be 30 foot here. And then throughout the whole pool, and let's draw the rest of it. Oh my gosh. The music stand has got to go if I'm gonna do any more of these. So let's just say you've got the big, wide, deep pool, and maybe it's 1 mile across, and you know, you've got your situation where it's slow, and maybe you got a bridge abutment, it's 35, 40, 50, 60 foot deep, blah, 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 for 30 miles. Yeah, I can try to pick that apart, but it's gonna take me more days than 1 or 2 to figure that situation out. I want this style river. It's basically confined in its banks. It's got better current. Yeah, and yeah, of course, you're gonna have a few offshoots, you're gonna have a few oxbows, you're gonna have a few islands. But as long as I can go from this dam downriver 20 miles or so and not deal with too many offshoots, and we're looking at offshoots because there always is, it doesn't matter what. But at least it's not a 1.5 mile wide basin that is artificial. Yeah, I did, Timalina. It's a mess. So what up, Wild Turkey? So let's just say that there's a few principles that I'm going to speak at length on, I hope, even though we only have an hour. And look at this, we've already been on here for 43 minutes. So I'm really gonna have to cliff notes this thing and decide what I'm gonna do, because there's so much to talk about and so much whatever. Now, do you guys, and give me a thumbs up if you think like a 15-minute question and answer thing would even work at the CatCon. I don't know if it will. I don't know. Oh, I see Roger's in here. Let me speak a little bit about Roger and Big Mike. And once again, I apologize for going live when Roger and Big Mike were on there. You know, they'd already done their live. I didn't know it, but Roger's a great guy. He's always interested in learning. He's always, you know, I mean, he's a great fisherman in his own right. And a lot of times we may even disagree about stuff, but he takes my advice to heart and says, you know what, maybe there's a situation for that. So does Big Mike. Even though he's off the shore, he always asks me questions. I ask him questions. It's a great thing. And, you know, to be in catfishing this day and age is incredible. I'm still pinching myself. Hagen Grubbs. You know, here we got Hagen Grubbs. Probably the one of the better catfishermen that I've ever watched on YouTube. I don't, you know, I've never fished in the boat with him, but I mean, he constantly is tweaking his situation. He's always got a good outlook. Look, him and his son are always working. And you know what? I'm not belittling anybody else. Creel, I love watching Creel. Alicia Barnett's great. I mean, all you guys are great, and I try to watch all of you. So just remember one thing, that, yeah, I'm still pinching myself. I really am. Sorry, I try to put in so much information, I forget about actually having a personality. Sorry about that. Eugene Brooks, that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I mean, let me get the rod and reel out a little bit and let me show you what I really think about a few things. Yeah. You know, Hagen, I never say words that aren't deserved. Look at Jeremy. Jeremy goes live on a contest and smashes a giant flathead. And he even talked about it before he was even doing it. It's that kind of stuff, you know. I mean, I'd heard Jeremy talk and talk and talk, but I hadn't seen a lot. Then when I saw it, I'm like, yep, he knows what he's doing. You know, everybody here puts their money where their mouth is. That's the awesome thing. Okay, let me get rid of this whiteboard. So, after my rod got ripped into the water by one of the most ferocious hits I've ever seen in my life, that's pretty rough, being as old and as haggard as I am. So Aaron, Catfish Regulator, sends me this Mad Catz rod, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, I haven't seen any new age rods in a while, and trust me, this is this is not the rod commercial segment of this. I'm just impressed with this thing because it's the closest to the old style rods that I've had. I mean, I believe you could land a grouper with this, and it's a little bit even more lightweight than the ones I've always used. So we are using, and just for everybody's sake, I put an 8-ounce weight on this first. I've got my basic sinker slider, because I want to be able to, because when I move spots, I might only move 200 yards and I might need 4 more ounces. I might need to use an 8-ounce like this instead of an 8-ounce like this. I might need, and I might need to use a 12-ounce like this, and I can just snap them on. And plus, at the end of the night, when I have these in my rod holders, because I really don't have rod storage and whatever, I can just unsnap these and it doesn't beat up my rods. Bang, 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 bang. I mean, anybody that has broken rods, usually, in my experience, is because they had a sinker tapping it and it'll weaken it. So anyway, let's hook up a donkey bait. Let's get a donkey going. So, and this is one of my CatCon props. This is as close as I could get, and that's one big ugly bait right there. It's about as, you know, when it's real life, it's about as big as a softball. Jeremy made my night, buddy. And you know what? I'm just telling the truth. That's right. That's absolutely right, dude. I mean, the greatest thing in the world is when you go out and you can do something because you've been, now everybody gets lucky sometimes. Not everybody. Some people never get lucky, but some people do. But I can always tell when I'm watching people's lives, whether it's luck or whether it's attrition or whether it's skill or whether it's perseverance or whether it's heart, because I'm telling you, that is one thing I'm going to talk about in the thing right there. Did it freeze? Uh-oh. Mine didn't freeze on this end. But anyways, one of the things I'm going to talk about is the perseverance and the dedication and the desire and the overall catfish, the epic catfish thought. Now, not everybody's got to be like that. Not everybody's got to be like me. I'm a psycho. I'm a guy that, you know, I'm the guy that, you know, gosh, if it would help me to catch giant catfish, I'd hide under the stairs somewhere. I mean, I would do whatever it takes to do that. So let's not even go there. Let's just kind of hook up a donkey bait that's easy to talk about. And I think I've accomplished that, which is kind of cool. This is a golden sucker head with the old googly eye, and it's kind of interesting. But to get back to Creel, it's the same for me when I get off the phone with Tim. I start looking at Navionics muskrat. That's the kind of stuff that is going to drive catfishing into the 22nd century. I mean, let's think about it. We got guys like Sunfish Assassin that's on here, and he's looking at every little bait fish, and he's looking at all this stuff. You got Catfish Heroes. Look at that puppy heads prop. That's right. Doesn't even have any blood. I wouldn't even get censored on YouTube for this one, but you can't catch real catfish on it. Steve Douglas. We got Steve Douglas in here. I never thought I'd ever talk to Steve Douglas. Steve Douglas would be like, who the hell is that guy? That Tim Scott Epic Catfish guy? Whatever, you know. Yeah. Kelly Speaks Out. See, look at that. 3+1. Sunfish Assassin. All, you know, all. Tim Molina. All. I mean, I can't even name them all because I'm terrible at names. But let's just say that I hope to do one thing that I could bring to YouTube and all you guys. It's not just YouTube. Who cares about YouTube? It's the people that make YouTube great. You know, look, there's Trey. Trey, if he can keep it up, he's going to be a YouTube star one of these days. I mean, like, big time, like 618 and all that with kabillions of views. I will never get kabillions of views because I'm just not that damn entertaining. I mean, I'm not very good looking either. So, and I'm missing a tooth now. So anyway, let's just talk about this donkey bait thing. Now, generally speaking, this is a pretty long leader for me. I generally use them that are about, and let's not get picky. It really doesn't matter too much if I'm using a leader 18 inches long or 12 inches long. But one thing I don't want it to do is I don't want it to swirl in the current real hard. Now, I've heard people talk about wanting their baits to swirl. I don't. I don't even want my, and believe this or not, I don't want my sinker down and my baits up here. Unless I'm in slower current. If I'm in slower current and I see a bunch of big, giant buffalo donkeys running around up high in the current, yes, I do. Then I may want it up like this. But I just haven't needed it yet. And maybe my old crusty ways will get changed in a little bit because I do plan on using some floats in here and get those up. But on the Mississippi, most of the time I'm dealing with current. It wouldn't matter if I've got a giant, you know, glizzy bobber that long and that big around. I think it's just going to lay flat anyway because I've got so much current going across. Because I don't ever have any lines that go straight down, hardly at all, unless I put a gigantic donkey sinker on it. And maybe I'm behind a wing dike going straight down. Now, you all saw Sean catch a monster, and I don't know if it was me or Sean, but I think it was Sean, on the straight down deal. Like when we got the big down rods and you got a big donkey bait. But the thing about the donkey bait is when it's straight down, I usually have the sinker at the bottom. And let me unreel this. So basically my configuration on a down rod is 8 or 12 ounces, and that's at the bottom, and this is basically tied 1 or 2 feet up. So if you can see that, or maybe even up a little bit higher. And so I'm gonna let my line down and let this bait back as far as I want to, because if I start to notice them coming underneath the boat, I mean, if I've got giant donkeys that are this big coming 3 foot off the bottom, I'm gonna try to, keep that up about 3. But then okay, got any tips on catching the buffalo carp? Who was that? Steve Douglas. Not on rod and reel, I don't. In the cold water period, I know of guys that throw twister tails and catch a lot of buffalo below dams. But I've never really been a part of that. Most of the buffalo that I get are out of a cast net, honestly, Steve. But like I said, I've got friends that will catch everything from small buffalo to gigantic buffalo on a white Mr. Twister for some reason, somehow. But it's usually when the plankton count is low and it's colder water period. Steve Cottonseed cake dough balls on range cubes. I'll let everybody else fish with that. I'll go ahead and keep doing what I'm doing. But I'm not gonna put it down. I don't put down glizzies. I don't put down chicken. I do say that the god of Conan, which is Crom, laughs at your chicken. And I do believe that. Something in that term. It's more of a funny thing than it is a real thing. But yeah, I will say that in open chat. Crom laughs at your chicken. Now, is it that you can't catch a super? Oh, boom, 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 351. That's awesome. You know, I I get all kind of weird in the heart when you guys do that. I think it's great because it's not that I don't know what to say about it actually. I think it's one of the greatest things in the world because if somebody's willing to give their hard-earned money towards something that they believe in or they love, I mean that says a lot. It really does. Chris Usselton, sorry. Can you speak on plankton movement and causes related to baitfish? I can, but it's going to take about probably another hour. But yes, I'm going to try to cliff notes this thing. When the water's cold and the sunlight is low, plankton will actually go down and well, it's not just that. The bait fish are actually going to go down. Let's talk about pelagic open water bait fish. Open water bait fish are some that they come up high and they deal with all the, let's just say this light above my head is like the sun concentration here. Sun concentration, oh boy, we got another boom, sunfish assassin. Oh my gosh. And you know what? You don't know how much and Catfish, you guys are awesome. So anyway, let's go on with this crazy stuff. So on top of my hands, I've got a lot of light going on. My gosh, you guys are awesome. Parker Pursuits, Fish Smack, Cleveland, yeah, regulators. So you've got the sun beating down on this water, and last night it was cold. It was dark, so the plankton all filtered down a little bit more. See, this is what's important about it. Oh my gosh, but Cody Robinson, Brandon's Outdoors, you guys are just awesome. So let me keep going with this stuff that I've studied my whole life, and I'm so happy to share with you guys. So, and yeah, it's a lot of fish nerd stuff. But that sun is coming through that water and it kind of gets stopped at a certain level. So the plankton actually not only rises to go to that sunlight because that's what its food is, it's actually phytoplankton, which phyto means sun. Photoplankton, that means sun. So they're doing their little growth thing, and they do a little, and then there's zooplankton. It kind of goes with it. It kind of hangs up underneath the phytoplankton because it eats on a few other things. But when the water gets cold, and this is how I'm going to try to make it simple. When the water gets cold, they go down to stay warmer. When the sunlight comes up, they bloom, and everybody says plankton bloom. So how does that affect the bait fish? The bait fish, especially shad, because that is 99%, well, I wouldn't say 99%, but in a lot of rivers that are turbid, when sunlight doesn't penetrate all that well, plankton are going to move up and feed in that sunlight zone. So since the plankton's there, the shad have no choice, especially shad, sometimes bluegill, sometimes, it depends on what kind of water situation, what kind of bait fish you've got. Alewives are especially vulnerable. They need to keep feeding on that plankton. All of your small bait fish do, so they'll rise when the plankton rises and they'll go down when the plankton goes down. So you can think of that as kind of a symbiotic relationship. So you've got low-level herbivores following herbivorous baits that they need into the upper water column, into the middle water column, or even into the low water column. And so that will keep you on target a lot more, especially when, not necessarily fishing, but especially when tackling into your bait fish that you're going to need to catch those big fish. Because giant blues and flatheads and channel cats could care less where plankton is. They don't give two craps where the plankton is, but they do care where their habitat intersects with bait fish, and that matter. And plankton lives matter. me see if I can get back into this here. Boom, boom, boom. Cody Robinson, awesome. 3 for Catfish Regulators, Aaron, that's awesome. Dude, you guys are great. Heroes talking about catching buffalo. You speak on plankton. How long have we been in this live? We've been in an hour already. Steve, I don't know if an hour is going to cut it, even though I'm going to try to get it all condensed. But yeah, Chris Usselton, you know, that's something that I'm sure Sunfish Assassin would ask. I'm sure that there's a lot of people would ask, and I'm glad you asked it, because we're not going to get to that, I don't think, in the Catfish Conference. Luther Harlow. You know, you guys are loyal people that have really, I mean, Brandon Ashley. I used to take Brandon and Sean to strip mine lakes off the shore, I mean, eons ago, and these guys are great. I'm telling you, this is some of the greatest stuff I've ever done. John Euler with the pimp hat. I wish we could see him right here. I wish there was an emoticon that had a pimp hat, because he'd have it on. Glad Joe told me about your channel, Real Beast. You know, I think I get more out of it than you guys do. I really do, because you know, I haven't fished in so long. I mean, I haven't fished in my own waters so long. I was getting a little bit depressive, and I'm thinking, you know what? I'm just gonna get on here and talk catfishing. Yeah, got a little overalls. Yeah, Mark, I almost wore them out to that spot, but you know, it was a little warmer there. Boom, 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 Eugene Brooks, awesome information. Thanks for Epic Catfish School. And you know what? As we go, it's going to get a little bit more involved, because I feel like I can't just throw everything out all at once. Cat downsizing bait, help get a finicky big fish to bite when there aren't hitting donkey baits. Absolutely, Cody. I've done it many times. Matter of fact, I've probably caught more fish over 100 pounds on baits, half the size if I have big baits. And it all depends on timing. It all depends on listening to the fish. Maybe that's what I should do at CatCon. Just talk about listening to the fish. I don't know. I think that's a little too zen, though. You know, a little bit too Bob Ross. At times I could be Bob Ross, you know, ooh, we got to paint the picture of what's going on with the fish, and, you know, we got to downsize, we got to be, you know, we have to have more finesse. Most of the time, from August to probably October 31, Sean and I are going to do our lives, and we're going to do stuff more Conan the Barbarian style. But before that, and there's David Smith. Love David Smith's comments and his questions. Hog leg, pimp daddy in the house. You know what, John Euler, it's awesome. And that was one of the funniest things I ever saw the other day. Guy drags a couch out to the bank, throws out, he's got rod holders on his couch. He's wearing a pimp hat and trying to catch fish. That was one of the craziest things I've ever seen, and it was great. Yep. I'm sorry, I'm missing everybody. You do a live every week. I don't know about that, Chris. I am very busy trying to pay the bills, and luckily, you know, I can get on YouTube and some people can donate some stuff. That's just fantastic. What do we got? Rebecca and Jamie, Muskrat. I don't know what Muskrat said. I'm sorry, I missed so many things. Wild turkey, yes, Fishmack. The base of the food chain are the phytoplankton and zooplankton. Feed on the photo, then the bait fish eat the zooplankton, larger bait fish. That's absolutely right, Wild Turkey. Wild Turkey's going to start writing a column in the weekly newspaper. Yeah, Sean, I will be tuned in. Epic Catfish Show. Tuesday nights after Muskrats. I'm co-hosting. You know what? I really wish I had like a set schedule. Matter of fact, I've talked myself into low sugar. I got to eat something. I'll be right back. All right, I figured I'd eat a cookie in front of you. I don't fall down or out. I fall in the boat. I'm lucky that way on the low sugar. Sunfish, there's always somebody hits a thumbs down. I could have a thumbs down. I could have a 15-second short, and there'd be like 20 thumbs downs. Mike Chavez, time to make that long walk into work. I'm sorry, buddy, but thanks for being in here. I'll tell you what, I've really enjoyed a lot of you people. Matter of fact, most of you. Mike Chavez is one. He's got to do the long walk into work. Hog leg, good thing to know when you're. Yeah, that's true. It is, and I've always been lucky that way. I've actually been diabetic since I was 23 years old. Kind of went from hero to zero. And yeah, it was a big transition, but I don't let it bother me. I just keep hammering the pavement. You know, I mean, give me this, give me that. Yeah, yeah. And I'm sorry that I had to do that in front of you. You know, because most of the time I don't know how to say it, but I don't look for empathy, and I don't look for anybody to take it easy on me. That's it. I didn't even want to talk about it. All right, let's get back to the old folk art here. I mean, I like fish this big, but I don't think anybody really wants to talk about them. Michael Toby, Mr. Epic, I have learned so much, and have enjoyed or improved my catching cats 110%. Caught the biggest flathead earlier, 27 pounds. You know what? Congratulations, buddy. And I'm not going to take all credit for that, but if I can take a little bit and be happy about it, I certainly will. Thank you. I mean, that's huge, but just remember one thing. Don't give me a bunch of credit, because all I'm doing is getting people to think in a direction that could help them catch more and bigger fish. That's all I've ever wanted to do. And, you know, if I never had to build another piece of furniture in my life again, I'd be fine with it. If I could just, you know, steer people into doing catfish stuff. Papa Ed, I didn't even see you before. I didn't even know you were here. And so Papa decided to send me some like 10 and 12-aught hooks and some other things. He's a great guy. He really loves big catfish, and he loves watching our stuff, and I love hearing his comments. David Smith, 3+9, yeah, 3+1, always been good. I'm gonna eat one more cookie because I can. I'm thinking I should do it like Brian, and do the slow-mo. Chicka bow wow. Roger, you could certainly have some of these. My wife just made them. They're like some sort of crazy sugar cookie slash caramel stuff. I don't know, but they're absolutely delicious. Okay, I just crashed it off there. I have some really sketchy props, I'll tell you that. Steve, thank you. I made that myself, and my wife said a long time ago, she said to me, I would love to live in a castle. The cookie fund, John Euler. So she said that's what she wanted to do. And you see the Here, I'm gonna do that right there, those metal things that hold up the candles, they actually came from a castle. And I told her that's the best I'm gonna be able to do. But, I mean, yes, John Euler, boom, 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 boom. I don't even know if I can say it like they do, like Stan 2 does. That's awesome. I could, Kelly. I could show a little bit of the house. Yeah, let's take a walk. Because I'm about fixing to end this too, because I can't even hardly collect my thoughts. But, okay, so this right here, those are a full 4x8s. And so are the ones going up and down. It's actually kind of a rare thing to find 100-year-old 4x8s. So I bought them as I could and collected them and put them out in my machine shed because I knew what I was going to do with them. So I've got this one. I've got this. Oh, you guys are going to like this. So above here, I took a full 4x8 and made a dining room table. See, and here I can't even talk, but here's one of my other situations. That's actually a copper fish up there. They don't make catfish, or I would have got a catfish. But a good friend of mine that actually sells those, you know, I told him I really liked it, and he actually gave it to me. And so, you know, here's a mirror, and you know, I did all this crazy stuff here. And this is a dining table that I designed. It was one of the best sellers. This right here is my wife's grandfather actually made the leaded glass in this, and I built the upper to match with the leaded glass, and the bottom is an antique from her house. This right here is a was actually an ammo can from like the some sort of war that nobody even heard about. I think it was the Swedish and the Dutch or something like that. I don't know. Okay, so right here is where my old house stopped. There was like a tiny little kitchen. We've got I've got this so messed up. I don't even know what to do. So I'm just gonna walk on. So here is the old 20-foot hallway. And yes, I made that lamp right there. I usually make most of them. And it's actually made out of car parts. Yeah, that's for another day. But here's another set of the, I don't know if everybody's following along, but here's another set of candle sconces from the castle. Wood flooring, what's stain, who's your catfish? Actually, it's, here, I'll turn this on. So, I actually spent enough on everything else that I couldn't really spend a bunch on the floor. And Jeremy, thank you very, boom, 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 $2, thank you very much. So actually, the floor is actually pretty. It's not really cheap stuff, but I bought it on sale. It's actually just clicked together. It does have some wood on top, but it's not the greatest flooring in the world because I was trying to do 4,000 feet at one time, and 4,000 feet times so many $7 or whatever to buy it plus the installation was just like murderous on my budget. And what I really wanted was like this. I wanted open beams and timbers that I could do myself and like windows. And I don't know, it's been a while. Oh yeah. So here's here's all that stuff. And yeah, so we got to replace the of course outdoor bulbs don't always last. But anyways, there's my there's my entertainment center that I watch all of you on every once in a while. Yeah. Let's go to, and yes, I did. There's no way I would have been able to afford any of this stuff had I not been able to do it myself. There is the vanity and the above, the washer and dryer cabinets, and then the shower. Yeah, and you know, I've got, of course, if anybody didn't know, I love the water, so I've got ships and wood things and all kinds of things I've collected over the years. You know, so here we have in the bathroom, you gotta have a clipper ship in the bathroom, and then you gotta have one in the living room. So that's actually done by the same artist. So we got clipper ships everywhere, and we got airplane things, and we got, you know, all kinds of goofy stuff, and yeah, so there it is. That's awesome. Yeah, thank you, David. And that is part of what I do. It is, I've designed furniture for about 30 years, and this look that I'm showing you guys is my furniture based on that. So, I'm thinking we're gonna wrap this up. Brian Posey, how's it going? Agents all cabinets, very awesome style, thank you. Very nice home, thanks. Yeah. Dale? YouTubers cribs, yeah. Yeah. Old, yeah, just basically old guys' dreams. We lived in this house when it was 900 square feet with 2 kids for 15 years. So yeah, do I ever fish down south in the Mississippi? I do occasionally, and I'm getting ready to go do it again, I hope. Cat cribs, yeah. It's really, I mean, it's cool because I made it cool. It's not something that, you know, the rich and famous go out and buy. They'd be like, oh geez, that thing's like old and rustic. But let's just say it was one of my dreams that I actually pushed to make come true. But at the end of the day, you have to pay for it. So it's a dream, but it's a hindrance. Not like I just, you know, whipped out my back pocket and said, hey, why don't somebody just build that? So, I mean, it has been one of those things that cost me dearly to do. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, we got some secret doors and stuff like that. But we're not even going there yet. Oh, I'm Ethan. I'm glad you liked the flat. I was worried nobody saw it. That thing get like no views forever. I haven't even checked it. Thanks, John. Many hours built. Yeah, I mean, it was like a 5-year project. But I was able to help, well, I was able to train my sons and teach them how to do things like walls and insulation and painting and things like that at the same time. And how not to be a child. How to operate as a man at like 7 or 8 years old. Yeah. Oh, Hogleg, I have a friend on the Altamaha that I hope to be able to visit. And I'm sure you've seen him in the lives. His name's Bob from Jack's. Cody is creative though, and the fact you did it with your own bare hands, yeah. Yeah, thanks, Ethan. I mean, you guys are great people. I mean, you guys are great people. Dan Wyatt, just joining the live stream. Well, Dan, I'm getting ready to kind of put it to a close, but yeah, David. Yeah, it's been a big dream of mine, you know, to do or have a timber frame home, and you know, do all the kind of stuff that I do. I mean, I've tried to live my life so that I could do the things I wanted to do, not the things that I am like that you have to do. And trust me on this one, nobody ever gave me anything to be able to do what I've been able to do so far. And yeah, it is kind of a man cave. Yeah, it is kind of one. Well, hog leg, I'd really enjoy that myself. Nope, hit the wrong button. Yeah, well, you have a captain's log. I may end this with a captain's log. Dan Wyatt, thanks, cool. Uh-oh. Can't comment, just emoticon. That's fine with me. That's just fine. So I think I'll wrap this up with a captain's log. I don't even know what the date is. I'll just have to make it up. Captain's log, November 6th, 2020. I've been in a live for at least an hour and a half with some of the greatest people on the planet, and I plan on going to catch some monsters sometime in the future. But before that, I will talk to people in Kansas City, Missouri, and try to help them catch monsters like we all want to catch. Signing out. Thanks, everybody. It's been awesome. It really has.